Remember in the old days, employees might say, "It's not my job." Well, what are they saying now? With the great resignation, with so many new employees starting new jobs, well, let's take advantage of the old Star Trek show and Mr. Spock. You might remember Mr. Spock would do a Vulcan mind meld, and he'd put his hands on someone's head and he'd be in sync and harmony. And if he were doing that with new employees, he would hear them saying, "What do you want me to focus on? What's most important for me to do now? What kind of decisions can I make? What kind of resources do I have? How will I know if I'm doing a good job? How will I know if I'm running into trouble?" Well, we don't have Mr. Spock here to do a Vulcan mind meld. So instead, what we're going to talk about today is the role of the leader. Let me introduce myself. I'm Cheryl Crumb, and welcome to Rule of Crumb. So let me share my screen with you. What happens when jobs are not explicit? Well, consider that assumptions are abounding everywhere. And when our jobs aren't explicit, here's what the employee sees as his or her job. And then the manager, again, not having talked about this, has a different representation of that person's job. So the only common ground that they have is that area in green. And the smaller that green area of agreement is, the more trouble we're in. So what is it that happens when we have this non-alignment? Well, we have the employee going, "Why am I being appreciated? Why am I not being recognized?" And what he or she is really feeling is unappreciated. How about our boss? Well, the boss is going, "Why isn't he or she doing the job that I hired them for?" And what we have now is upset. So when emotions start to rule, we really get into trouble. Let me use the metaphor of an iceberg. So in human behavior, all we're able to see is the tip of the iceberg. And in effect, this is our behavior. Our behavior is what we say or what we do. But what lies beneath the iceberg? Well, consider that it begins with our thoughts. And those thoughts produce feelings, and those feelings produce our behavior. So if a boss or an employee has a negative thought, and that thought is, "Why am I not being appreciated?" or "Why is he not doing his job?" Notice that what happens, the feelings are irritation and impatience and annoyance and frustration. And when that happens, even the best actors in the world cannot hide their emotion, reaction behavior, the rolling of the eyes, the pointing of the fingers, the inability to listen, and thus becomes let's call it the lack of relationship where bosses and subordinates don't get along. And research indicates that 2/3 of employees who quit their boss, not their job. So how can we rectify this? Well, the conversation is the way to do it. And I'd like you to think of a sandbox. Construct a sandbox. And that sandbox has 4 sides, because we really want to start by explaining to our employees what are their accountabilities. The accountabilities are the what's that your job is in business for. We want to share as well the key objectives for this quarter or this year. We want to talk about equally what are the standards of performance, the measures of how well I expect you to do the job. And then finally, we want to have a conversation about freedom and power. See, when we do this, and then we talk about the resources, the hardware, the software, the people, everything shifts, because now our thoughts are positive. And the employee is thinking, hey, this place is pretty fabulous. I'm glad I came here. And the boss is thinking, boy, did I make a good hire. What's produced then is compassion and empathy and caring. And what we have in terms of behavior, people talking to each other, people helping each other, people looking at the possibilities moving forward. So this is what is possible. Let me bring my slide share, my screens to an end. This is what is possible when we have a conversation with our new employees about expectations. We don't have access to that Balkan mind meld, so our conversation is our next best bet. Thanks very much for joining me, and we'll see you at the next Rule of Crumb. Goodbye.